Paul Pete Works here, coming to you once again with One Piece chapter 1161, entitled A Love Ballad in a Hail of Arrows. So, we have a continuation of our cover story this week, and we have a color spread this week. I like the color spread a lot because we have the Straw Hats in an arcade in which they're using a claw machine in order to get the various dolls of many characters we see throughout the series. Nami and Luffy are holding dolls that represent people that they have met along the journey. Nami has characters very specific to her arc, but she also has Hydas, which was the Birkin guy that she learned all the weather science from on Witheria, who was a Birkin. And I guess seeing as how he didn't have any wings, he was the deity of Burka. But that's never really been explained thoroughly. I believe we got that information in a Vivre card. But she's holding dolls of Vivi, Nojiko, Belmare, and Genzo. So that's cool. And she's fighting with Luffy over a Chopper plushie. But the real Chopper is trapped in the claw machine, and Usopp and Brook are trying to get him out. Whereas Frankie is hesitating because he doesn't have many coins left to play, so they don't have many chances of getting him out. What's very funny too is that there's a Zeph doll in the machine, right? Sanji did not go for the Zeph doll. He went for dolls of various women throughout the series. We see he has a Pudding doll, a Perona doll, a Kodas doll, a Lilith doll, a Hiyori doll, and a Cammy doll along with a Viola doll, which is funny. But the only doll Zoro went after was the Mihawk doll. It's really weird that Mihawk has a little X on his chest here. Don't know what that's about. That's weird. And he's sleeping on a Shirahoshi doll as a Buggy doll is thrown astray in the background. Luffy has dropped the Hancock and Kara dolls, which is pretty sad, but he's got a Momonosuke doll in his pocket. He has a Gaimon doll in his mouth. The Kinemon doll has gone flying, but the Yamato doll is very near to him, so that's interesting. But he's holding a Shanks doll, a Sabo doll, a Machina doll, a Garp doll, a Dedan doll, an Ace doll, a Rayleigh doll, and a Whitebeard doll. So that's pretty neat. And of course, while all this is going on, Jinbei is asleep, safely outside of the scheme of what's going on here, safely tucked away behind Nami's shoe in the shot. So Oda does not have to draw his complicated Jinbei, which is the robe he's wearing, right? And he is resting on a Saw doll and he has his hand on a Dory doll. So yeah, Jinbei outside of the color spread again, not participating. How thematic, how interesting, how expected, because this happens every time. Like every time. I'm not even joking. This happens all the time. I don't know. Why even have him participate? He doesn't even have any dolls associated with him. He doesn't have a Neptune doll. The Shirihoshi doll is being slept on by Zoro. So nothing applies to him in this whole makeup. He's not even participating. He's not trying to save Chopper. He's not doing anything. He never does anything in these, ever. But okay, moving on with our cover story. This is the 43rd installment of the cover story in which Yamato, Kinemon, and Momonosuke are at the Odin shrine, and we see them giving praise to all the people who have fallen in the Battle of Wano. So Kazuki Odin, Kazuki Toki, Ashura Doji, Izo, etc., etc. So this is pretty neat. I wonder where the cover story is going from here, because it's quite odd that it's gone on for this long and not a whole lot has happened outside of the Kazuki Moria thing. So that's interesting. We'll have to see if she sets sail soon after all this is over. I think that's the only place where this could go. I do wonder if Ulti and Page 1 are going to help her sail, or are they going to stay on Wano as Momonosuke's retainers? Because I could see that happening. That was my original thought, that the Beast Pirates that they meet will become the retainer of Momonosuke. We don't know the whereabouts of Jack or Black Maria or a lot of guys, actually. All we know about is where who's who was and how he got defeated by Yamato. And then we know that Page One and OT were with Yamato. So that's all we know. We don't know about Jack. We don't know about Black Maria. We don't know about Sasaki. So yeah. And we don't know where all the numbers went either. Because all we know is MB went with Apu. That's it. So yeah. A lot to think about. So going on with our chapter. We have Dragon escaping with a baby Shanks and Shamrock. The woman that we meet from last chapter, who is the weird Oni woman who was a holy knight, shoots out a beam at Dragon. Now, she is not a pacifista. We know she's not a pacifista because we are like, 3 or 4 decades removed from the Pacifista project. It has not happened yet because remember, Kuma is a child here. So the Pacifista project has not started. I don't know if cyborgs are a thing yet because at this time, I guess Vegapunk would have researched how to make lasers from Kizaru's fruit, but I don't think he's implemented them into anyone yet. So I don't know what she's doing here. It could just be a Delphin ability. Perhaps she is a mythical Zoan, like Saint Killingham. However, we find out that she is not related to Saint Killingham as her name is Saint Matthew of the Satchel family. So that's a bust. I was wrong on that. And her head looks like a little mountaintop, like Mount Fuji or something. So, I mean, she's got to be from Wano. Because her head is both a combination of Onigashima and Wano. Because her head looks like Mount Fuji and with the horns, it looks like Onigashima. So, I don't know. That's a weird hairstyle. Very weird hairstyle. Especially on a woman. How odd. But also, quick thing. We also find out that the mother of Teach and the bride of Zebek has the name Eris. Because here we see Zebek thinking, Eris, Teach, where are you? So Eris is Teach's mother's name. So we'll have to see if she has a last name, which will be interesting. I wonder if she is a part of the Davy clan or no. We'll have to wait and see. So moving on, I wonder, are we going to get a name drop for the man that we see in the previous chapter? The one that looked like an Oni as well. Don't know, but he's also very interesting. But yeah, Matthew is mowed down by Newgate while she has Shamrock in hand. Or perhaps she has Shanks in hand. We'll have to see. I'm not really sure. But yeah, that's when Big Mom, otherwise known as Charlotte Linlin, is giving Newgate guff because he almost cut her. And they're just arguing back and forth. And Dragon remarks just how big the two of them are. That's when Shiki catches up and Kaido catches up, still complaining, Big sister, I want the devil fruit. Get it for me. It's so funny. He's such a labor. It's so funny. And then all 4 of them defeat some scrub pirates and marines, it seems like. We see Matthew with a baby in hand, so that is Shamrock for sure. But once Dragon recovers, he sees that a little baby has been knocked out. This is Shanks. And I was seeing what people were saying on Twitter about this. He has the same origin story as Goku. Oda literally made Shanks Goku. I cannot believe it. Because by being bumped on the head, that's why he's not a terrible monster like his brother now. Because he was bumped on the head and that rewrote all of his, I guess, evil tendencies. And now he's just a good boy in the present. That's so funny. He literally made Shanks Goku. That's hilarious. And it's so funny to see the little baby knocked out with X's on his eyes. Fantastic. That's when Garp shows up, however, and calls the 4 of them big sea kings and he's going fishing for them. And they all run away from his big impact, including Newgate. Oh man, Newgate was on different timing back then. He is not the man we know currently. Goodness gracious. Also, he's got a different Jolly Roger on his bicorn. How odd. Yeah, that's not the Jolly Roger he has in the present when he has his own pirate crew. So that's cool. That's cool. But yeah, they're running away, but Big Mom goes on the offensive. Big Mom stays up. I love Big Mom. And she has an attack called Heavily Furor Blitz, in which she utilizes both Prometheus and Zeus at the same time to barbecue Garp. However, this does not work because Prime Garp is the devil, apparently. As he says, this isn't even hot enough to cook a prime rib, Linlin. And Linlin is afraid. Oh no. Who was Prime Garp? Also, forgot to point out, when Garp jumps into the fray, Dragon thinks dad. So yeah, he sees Garp here and he recognizes Garp as his father. So yes, they are father and son. There's no weirdness there. So that's good. We know that for a fact now. Okay. All right. I don't think Garp sees his son because he's too preoccupied in fishing for these big pirates. So I don't think that's the case. But from the next panel, it seems as though Maffy has that legendary emu regeneration thing, the whole abyss mark or whatever it's called, because she recovers from being mowed down by Newgate. She has baby Shamrock in hand as she's talking to somebody on the Denmushi as Dragon continues his escape with baby Shanks. This then gives us a shot of the other man-mayor person who I guess is a girl. I keep calling her Pizza Hat Girl because she doesn't have a name. But yeah, she is a very good marksman as she mows down a whole bunch of rabbit targets in quick succession, which is wild. She's a good gunslinger. I wonder if Usopp will fight her in the future if she's still around. Huh, that's something to see. Then we get a cool overview of where the pirates are coming from. So Rox came in from the southwest and Roger came in from the northwest, so they're sandwiching the Celestial Dragons and all the Marine forces. Pretty cool. It's weird too that God Valley seems to be like a saloon-like town. I wonder, is this where Monsters takes place? I really wonder, because Monsters took place at a saloon-like town too. Huh. Also, the island in which Ace and Blackbeard fought took place in a saloon-like town. That was like Barno or something. That wasn't God Valley. But it's interesting that there's so many saloon-like places in One Piece. We get another shot of the Rox pirates as they're going to save Shaki, and, well, did you know that William Kidd, the guy that Kidd is based off of, meaning Eustace Kidd, had a father named Captain John Kidd? William Kidd's father was Captain John Kidd, a Scottish seaman who was lost at sea when his son was young. He was a sailor himself, and William Kidd grew up to follow in his father's footsteps, though he would later become a privateer and eventually be accused of piracy. You know what's so interesting about Captain Kidd and Captain John? Both of them have the epithet of captain in their name, which is a very rare thing in One Piece. I say all this because in this chapter, we see that it appears as though that Captain John has the magnet fruit because he has a metal arm. So, to all those people who said Captain Kidd is related to Zebek, no. I told you all this wasn't the case. I knew this wasn't the case because it didn't make sense. It makes more sense for Captain John to be related to Kidd. And they both go by Captain. I mean, the fact that that's a thing, I didn't even think about that. But that's the truth. And it's based off the real world relationship between Captain William and then Captain John. Because William Kidd is the basis for Kidd. So that means Captain John Kidd is most likely the basis for Captain John here. What's also weird about Captain John is that he always has his hand in his pocket. So I think this is the first time we see his hand free. Even when he's a zombie, I guess old habits die hard because he always has his hand in his pocket. So that's super weird. So yeah, he had the magnet fruit. And later on in the chapter, you get another shot of him using the hand. So perhaps he's using that as a basis for his magnetism. I'm not sure. But most likely, based on Captain Kidd doing the same thing, Captain John was the previous user of the magnet fruit, which is why both of them might have the whole, I guess, hobby of tinkering or being metal shop artists. Because as I mentioned in the previous video, Kidd is not a shipwright. Kidd is not an inventor. Kidd is an artist. He is a tinkerer. He makes metal sculptures. So Captain John maybe did the same thing in his spare time. And technically, Captain John is really thematic in this way because he technically is obsessed with metal and being obsessed with treasure. So I don't know, dog. I don't know. That's interesting. But moving on with the chapter, Sommers goes to check on Shocky, who has defeated all the guards watching over her, which is crazy because she's chained up during this time. But Sommers then proceeds to beat Shocky up because he's a scumbag. Shocky kicks him in retaliation. Sommers catches her leg after he is kicked by her, which is weird, and proceeds to bash her in the leg with his weird bat. That's when we get the panel of seeing Captain John again, using that metal arm to do something, probably to stab people with their own swords or something because he has the magnet fruit. I'm just saying. Captain John and Captain Kidd are father and son. Oh my goodness. That's so crazy. But yeah, clashes are going on between Roger and Newgate. Battles are commencing. And that is when Rayleigh appears. Roger calls out, "My hands are tied right now. I'm leaving Shocky to you." He comes into the fray. And just when Sommers is about to beat Shocky into a pulp, Silvers enters and slams Sommers through a wall with a sword slash. Now, the interesting thing about this sword slash is that I think this is the first time we're getting a named attack from Rayleigh because it's called Transcendent Heigen Crescent. So Heigen apparently is a Buddhist holiday thanks to the editor's notes. And there's a pun in here that relates to a spider lily, a red spider lily, which is a emblem of death, if I recall. So he's kind of like Zoro in that way because Zoro has a lot of attacks that have some relation to Hinduism or Buddhism. So that's interesting that they have that in common. And he oddly has something in common with Mr. One, because I remember Mr. One having an attack called Sparkling Daisy. So his attack has a flower motif like Mr. One's attack. I don't know if that means anything, but I do find that interesting. So yes, and slashing Sommers down, or at least catapulting him into a wall, he has saved Shocky. And that is how Hancock's parents met, because I'm still on that. Hancock's parents are Rayleigh and Shakuyaku. They have to be. We have a touching reunion between the two, and Scopper and Roger are crying because the scene is touching, and they say, "Save it for later, you dog." So yes, the Roger pirates are going to grab the treasure and bail. So I guess in chapter 1162, we'll see what became of Zebek and his wife Eris, I guess, too. So yeah, that's the end of our chapter. No break next week. And this is a pretty good chapter. I'm really excited. And I called it. I told you Kidd and Zebek were not related. Ooh, but this brings up a lot of other implications for the future. Okay, well, stay tuned to the Paula P Works channel. With that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Paula P Works.